Yeah, I know. Last year's special was the same shtick. I'm in space, but not actually. I'm just hiding in the basement, escaping the real world. To be fair, can you blame me? It hasn't got any better out there. What's up with that?
Right, Halloween. Time for me to really dig into the horror genre, and this year, I'm going to be doing things a little bit differently. In past years, I went out of my way to find something strange, unusual, or otherwise obscure, but this time I'm going oddly mainstream, like Electronic Arts mainstream. You know, the guys behind the FIFA games that, work perfectly fine, with no issues. Christ.
See, in 2008, EA was sort of having a moment, so to speak. They forgot to check in on EA Redwood Shores, later renamed to Visceral Games, who in turn forgot that they were the studio responsible for the Tiger Woods games, and instead they made a single-player horror game that would accidentally become a massive monster hit. That game was Dead Space.
Dead Space sticks out in recent gaming history for a few reasons, but mostly because this game doesn't feel like it was made with the cold, cynical, focus-tested money of Electronic Arts. No, this game feels like something I'd expect out of Capcom, or at a push, old times Konami. Yet here we are, and with the recent news of a remake, the urge to revisit this sleeper hit came over me like a fever since, to be honest, the nagging voice in my head won't stop asking if it really needs a do-over. My memory fails me if it had any real issues, so I guess it's time to boot up the 360 and play Dead Space again. Set in the year 2508, after humanity has spread among the stars to find no sign of life outside Earth, a small crew of maintenance and security personnel are dispatched to the unresponsive planet cracker ship, the USG Ishimura.
Yes, in the distant future, we're at the point that we're literally destroying planets to get raw resources. It's a little dystopian, yes, but it does play nicely into this game's aesthetic, something that I personally refer to as industrial horror.
You play as silent engineer Isaac Clarke, who, as it turns out, has a personal stake in this mission. His estranged partner, Nicole, is aboard the Ishimura. Accompanied by Security Chief Hammond, company woman Kendra, and a few ragtag soldiers, the group arrive and find, well, Christ, a bumpy landing and a non-responsive ship. A few more minutes later, upon trying to get into arrivals, it all goes to hell.
I don't know, something's in the room with us.
Jesus! Open fire! Open fire! Get the power!
Jesus, Mary and Joseph!
Run, Isaac, run! Good lord! Those there are necromorphs, the primary antagonist of the game, and they are... okay, they're a little bit silly and pretty obviously inspired by John Carpenter's The Thing.
This is a game that clearly wears its inspirations on its sleeves. It's got the gameplay design of Resident Evil 4, but with the body and shock horror of The Thing, combined with the cold, bleak atmosphere and sinister company acting behind the scenes of Alien.
And from here, the game just gets to work. Since Isaac is an engineer, most of the weapons he uses are, well, tools that he's had to repurpose in order to survive. The game uses this design choice to the absolute maximum, focusing less on shooting straight at an enemy and more using items like the iconic plasma cutter to, as the game so aptly puts it, cut off their limbs. To solve puzzles, you have to use stasis and kinetic beams that freeze or move technology. It's all very blue collar and grounded, despite the intergalactic setting. Yet it's a very loud, in-your-face kind of horror that screams at the top of its lungs, but then punctuates these frantic moments with sheer silence and an unspoken somber mood. Honestly, the most similar thing I can compare it to is George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. All of these high intensity, high violence, high impact scenes paired with a very somber, quiet realization that these are the end times and hope is dwindling away as the days pass.
Okay, I promise that's the last time I'll use a comparative example. It's just that this game does a wonderful job of taking elements from other things that have worked and repackaging them in a way that isn't contrived or you know, try-hardish. Like a Quentin Tarantino film. Comment section's gonna love me for that one.
Touching back on those loud in-your-face moments, and yes, that does mean that the game uses jump scares in its arsenal, but a jump scare in Dead Space feels less forced than in other games. This is partly because it doesn't solely rely on them, but also because when they do come, it makes sense. Honestly, the most disturbing thing about the whole tone of the game is finding survivors dotted around the Ishimura, either totally losing their minds or committing horrific acts in the name of the marker.
And this neatly brings us to the plot of Dead Space, which I'll be honest is one of the game's weaker points.
As it turns out, the Ishimura was illegally mining on the planet of Aegis 7 and accidentally found what various members of a religious group thinks to be a totem from God, referred to as that previously mentioned marker. However, upon activation, the marker caused dementia, insanity, suicidal and homicidal behaviours in the on-planet colony, and later, the crew, when it was brought up to the Ishimura. And that wasn't all. Whatever this marker emits also causes dead tissue to reconstruct, mutate, and reanimate into these deadly necromorphs that now run rampant. The issue here isn't the premise, far from it, since it sets up amazing scenes with human and necrotic characters. No, the issue is that the game tries too hard to explain and justify every little detail as to what's going on. I get it, lorehounds love this stuff, but horror, in my opinion, is a genre that's at its best when it doesn't reveal all of its cards. Seriously, think about it. And I know I said I wouldn't do this again, but I can't help it. The recent Alien sequels. Did we really need to know the ins and outs of the space jockeys? Did the black goo add anything of value? The answer is a resounding God no. And the same applies here, when the game goes out of its way to explain the marker is actually artificial, and it loses its charm in my opinion. Having it be alien in an otherwise silent universe to me is significantly more terrifying than finding out it was placed out in space as some kind of experiment by the Earth government.
That said, I can see Bezos doing something similar with his Blue Origin penis rockets. Hey, when it comes to screwing out the Amazon worker of tomorrow on those Amazon TM colonies, spare no expense. I'm not joking. Look up Amazon Worker Town. That shit's dystopian.
Plus, if I'm honest, the game is a little unpolished in areas. Certain scenes have framerate issues, and at least in my playthrough, I had audio peaking in certain scenes. However, the most irritating thing was that I had to restart my game after 2 hours of playing. See, I started this on the hard difficulty for no other reason than I could, and I got to this scene right here with a tentacle grabbing Isaac, and well, I didn't have enough ammo to deal with it since on hard, resources are harder to come by and enemies are much tougher. I couldn't backtrack to the store to buy more ammo, and there wasn't any I could pick up, so I was at an impasse and I had to restart.
Which, begrudgingly, I did. Look, if the game wants to mess with me, I'm going to mess with it. It's time for easy mode.
And the simplest way to mess with it, barring a lower difficulty? Simple. Cheats! Yes, this game has traditional style cheats. You enter on the pause menu with a simple button code, and you know what? I kind of miss this design philosophy. The cheats, for the record, are useful but not game-breaking. You can refill certain meters and bars, but not your health or ammo. You do get a one-time resource and money code, but again, that's one time. You can't spam it to fill your coffers. Ultimately, you still have to play the game, and cannot skip scenes or encounters. So I guess I didn't really get the one-up over it here. Well, I'm just going to act like I did because it makes me feel better about starting over, even if they are balanced in a way that even Dean Takahashi couldn't benefit from. And bluntly, it didn't take away from the thing that I love most in a horror anything, the atmosphere. This game is just drenched in it from start to finish. The ship is brown, rusted, industrial, and just well lit enough to give you a false sense of safety as it teases you further and further inside. The crew has all given up hope at best, or at worst, is dead and actively trying to kill you, and while yes, you spend a lot of time dealing with the latter, the few and far between moments you spend with the former are haunting. Of all the scenes I remember from playing this on release many years ago, the one that stuck with me was this right here. A silent, unspoken room you pass through, lit by lanterns, with people who have all chosen to end their lives in their own terms, instead of the horrible, violent alternative. There's something just deeply unsettling about it, and it's weird to think that something this drenched in emotion and this harrowing came out of the Death Star that is EA.
That's actually a thing. See, during development, the team went out of their way to make something that was counter to the usual output of Electronic Arts. Now, to me, that sounds like a professional way of telling Peter Moore to piss off.
Let's do the finale and then wrap up Halloween for another year. As it turns out, Nicole is still on the Ishimura and somehow has her humanity intact, but something seems off. Like, why is it whenever she talks to you, she goes on about, constantly making us whole again? Come to think of it, a lot of the ship's inhabitants are going on about exactly that, Well, either way, here's Hammond informing us about a shuttle in the hangar and, yeah, yikes, well, he's dead then. Shit. Leaving just Isaac and Kendra on the ship, the pair work together with another survivor, babbling about a long dead wife the whole time, to get the marker back to the planet in the hopes of ending the madness. However, plot twist number 1. Kendra is working for the Earth government. After murdering the insane man, she leaves Isaac for dead, but suddenly Nicole appears and, talking in a rather past tense tone, helps Isaac remote the shuttle carrying Kendra and the marker back, but only after Kendra uses an escape pod, landing on the planet's surface. Finally, on Aegis 7, Isaac reunites the marker with its pedestal and, oh, hey, it's Kendra again, and she's stealing the marker and leaving us for dead. Again. God, woman, get another angle. But of course, only after pointing out that Isaac isn't watching all of Nicole's video message. As it would be, Nicole has been dead the whole time, euthanizing herself to avoid becoming a necromorph, and Isaac, hallucinating under the effects of the marker, is losing it.
Well, it's that or the PTSD, which is actually the theme of the sequel, which I guess I'll, have to do now. I'm not against that, the sequel's a banger.
Chasing after to confront Kendra, the Leviathan, a gigantic necromorph, awakens and, she's also dead then. Good lord. The final boss is, it's straightforward at least, if not a little anticlimactic. It's covered in these yellow sacks that you have to pop in order to win, which is fine and all, it's just, I don't know. It's a bit more linear than some of the other fights in the game. Plus, if I'm honest, it's almost an exact rinse and repeat of the giant anus boss fight from earlier. Aboard the shuttle, Isaac makes a desperate escape as the Ishimura's trillion-ton payload crashes into the surface in a catastrophic mass extinction event. Finally, able to rest after all of this, Isaac removes his helmet, takes a long, deep look into his dead girlfriend's eyes and wait, what?
And that's it. Dead Space is an enjoyable 6 to 8 hour romp that's a little rough around the edges. Visually speaking, yeah, it's a bit muddy by today's standards. Keep in mind though, this game is what, 13, 14 years old? Oh god, I remember this came out. Christ, I'm ancient. But I see why they're pushing that as kind of their big selling point of the remake. All these RTX graphics, all that crap that no one actually turns on because it halves your frame rate. But it's hard for me to really think about. I must admit, I'm really on the fence if this game even needs a remake. Speaking of PC, there is a fantastic PC version of this game which runs flawlessly on modern hardware and should have been the version I should have probably played for this video, huh?
Maybe I'm being cynical here, but am I the only one worried that EA is going to EA all over this? Like, Visceral doesn't exist anymore, and for those who don't know, a large part of it is due to taking the brunt of the blame and financial hit for Dead Space 3's failure. Sadly, the studio lost a lot of talent and fell into mediocrity when EA used it to pump out tired sequels, and then, well, that was it. Doors closed in 2017.
I just can't see another Dead Space situation coming out of a major publisher again. It's cynical, yeah, but remaking it is not going to recapture that lightning in a bottle. This was a one-off deal. You had it, you made it, and then you kind of blew it with a sequel too many. Well, on that oddly sad note, I wish you a happy and safe Halloween. Hopefully one that's free of little bastards trying to eat you while you look for your dead loved ones.
Oh no, he didn't. Oh, he wants to go. Oh, he wants to go right now. YouTube looking ass, bald ass looking, wannabe creator. Oh, look at it. Oh, I'm gonna mess him up good.
Yeah, you tell him, boss. We gonna mess you up, boy. We gonna wreck your shit. Ain't nobody ever gonna find you in this basement.
Oye, de veras, pendejos, no sé exactamente lo que está pasando bien.
Oh, for Christ's sake!